Morning. Well, it is a new era for the country. As you know, Jacob Zuma stepping down as President of the Republic last night. Let's get some analysis of this. We're joined by political analyst Dumisani Hlophe with us this morning. Dumisani, before we look at the road ahead, I very quickly want to ask you, and I got the sense earlier as well, if you compared with Zimbabwe a few months ago and we saw the celebrations on the streets, we saw the euphoria, it almost seems we're not seeing that here yet. Yes. In South Africa. Are you sensing a bit of an anticlimax?
Well, yeah, good morning to you and to the viewers. It is an anticlimax. I think the expectation was that immediately President Jacob Zuma announces his resignation, there was going to be a euphoria in the streets and celebration and all of that, but that is not what is happening. So perhaps the notion, in hindsight, the notion that the political mood in society demands that the president leaves immediately may not have been overwhelmingly a correct one. But perhaps there's a difference here between what the middle class makes noise about and what the masses on the ground do. So if you check the reaction around Pretoria last night, there was a bit of an excitement, but not a celebration. But if you look at some reaction from the masses and the grassroots, the reaction is not as overwhelmingly excited as one would have experienced with the Zimbabwe situation.
Would you put that down to maybe a bit of a fatigue, sort of, we've waited so long, okay, it's here now? Or put it down to, we're not so convinced that this makes for a better South Africa already because we still have the ANC and we're not sure about this ANC now and who's in it?
Well, I think the good thing about it is that it begins to say that, perhaps South Africans are not putting an overwhelming confidence or non-confidence in one particular individual. They are more concerned about the ruling party in its entirety than simply looking into former, it's difficult now to say former President
Yes,
Zuma.
You've got to take some
but I think for me that's what it tells. I think South Africans are highly politicized. They are very conscious that the progress of this country is not solely dependent on one particular individual. It's a collective issue. And I think even to this regard, the ANC has not earned itself so much kudos in the process of removing President Zuma.
Okay, let's look at what happens now, Dumisani. I mean, well, automatically we know Cyril Ramaphosa is the acting president. We expect he'll be sworn in any time today or tomorrow, deliver that State of the Nation address, and we expect the budget to happen by the middle of next week. Are we looking at who, for you, would possibly be the deputy president to Cyril Ramaphosa? Who would be the person? Who's in the running?
Asking me to prophesize.
Well, who's in the running? Who would be the...
Look, I think the inclination, I think one thing that we can safely say for sure it is that it's likely to be a woman. I think Cyril Ramaphosa has tried even during his campaign and his team to get a woman to be a deputy running mate. I think that's what it is called. So my suspicion is that it is highly likely to be a woman. I wouldn't like to put... Okay, it's a contradiction that I'm about to say, but I think the likes of Lindiwe Sisulu could be on the running. The likes of Naledi Pandor could be on the running.
Not a Zuma.
No, it wouldn't make sense to put NDZ there simply because she contested, and I think it was going to complicate the matters. But my gut feel, it suggests that it's likely to be a woman.
And then, are we looking at a cabinet reshuffle? Are we looking at the likes of, are we looking at a spring clean maybe, the likes of Batabile Dlamini, who we could see finally, getting the boot that many think she deserves? Are we looking, I mean, we have a budget coming up, and will it happen before the budget? I mean, can you have a very new finance minister, if not Malusi Gigaba, delivering a budget?
Look, there's going to be a wholesome reshuffle. I think that's a showcase. I think the likes of the person that you are like Batabile, I mean, and quite many others, it's some of them that are mentioned on the issues of state capture inquiry. They are likely to face the chop because, I mean, President Zuma operated through a series of individuals, and therefore it won't make sense to remove that one person. It's possible as well that the Minister of Finance could also be reshuffled. The question is, do you do that prior to the budget speech or not? And from where I'm sitting, I would assume that Cyril will try to avoid an impression that, he's putting a guillotine on all those that he assumed to be associated with President Jacob Zuma. So he's likely to move with caution. I wouldn't see him reshuffling the cabinet before the budget speech. So it is highly likely that Malusi Kigaba will present the budget speech, but thereafter, do expect some serious reshuffling.
Do you expect Pravin Gordhan to make a comeback? If he
he can. I think there are a few people that we can expect them to make a comeback. Pravin is one of them, and Tlantlanen is one of them. I mean, the markets have been very strong in these political, changes within the ANC and in government. But I would not expect Pravin Gordhan to make a comeback as a Minister of Finance. Yeah. Perhaps Tlantlanen could be that person, but perhaps you can have Pravin as a Minister of State-owned enterprises, cleaning up governance issues in that space. But I would expect him to make, a comeback.
And we also have to ask Dumisani, with the state capture inquiry, we see the hawks pouncing already. It's like something out of a movie. You see resignations. Yeah. If we had pictures of people in handcuffs, you can see the trailer to this movie already. Yeah. We're looking at the likes of Mosbenzi Zwane, who's probably, people are saying, most likely going to be part of that, of those netted as well. We have to look at those posts. We have to look at others who, however the ANC feels about, like you say, not trying to show that they're wielding a guillotine over heads, the law might do that for them as well. All of that has to be taken into consideration. Those who are implicated, the likes of Des van Rooyen even, all of them, for example, I mean, those decisions might be inevitable. And not left up to Cyril Ramaphosa.
Look, definitely. So I think what's going to happen moving forward, I think three things that are going to prioritize the Cyril leadership in the next few days. One is going to prioritize unity within the ANC, and then at the state level is going to prioritize issues of governance. So my assumption is that anyone that may be perceived to have erred, on that principle of good governance, wherever they are to be found, they are likely to be reshuffled. And then fourthly, if you recognize that suddenly law agencies that deal with corruption issues, they seem to very emboldened, in the presence of a new political environment and leadership. We are likely to see a whole lot of casualties. It may be the case that those that you have mentioned are going to suffer the guillotine one way or the other, but I would expect that there could be some serious, arrests, both in public and in the private sector.
But we also have to wonder what's going to happen to Jacob Zuma himself. We're expecting the NPA to tell us at some point next week, I mean, what's going to happen there? And was there any part of the deal that actually played a part?
No, they couldn't have made that deal.
Because it's impossible, yes.
Yeah, no, look, the ANC can't give President or former President Jacob Zuma immunity because it's not within their space. I mean, this is a constitutional democracy for that matter. There's an independent of judiciary and all of that. So they could have never have given it to him. But there are very strong possibilities that those charges or some of them will be preferred against him again. And by the way, he is not off the hook in that front, but also the ANC on the Jacob Zuma is equally not off the hook, because the opposition and this is going to deal with the ANC, and the Jacob Zuma will continue to be that part of the issue.
And that's the thing, they're saying that they will not also accept Cyril Ramaphosa as a president. So who then? Because it's not over for them.
No, but it's an open season. It's not automatic that Cyril just becomes president, because there has to be an election at the National Assembly. So it is within the opposition to, put up their own candidate, and it's part of democracy in this country. Actually, I do expect, the opposition to actually prefer their own candidate. So Cyril is not guaranteed that he'll get everybody in the National Assembly to vote for him.
Okay, well, I suppose it's wait and see. So many questions, so much to do, and so little time to do it in. Thank you very much. And that's a political analyst, Dumisani Hlope, just taking a look at the possible road ahead.